Plan Commission meeting. We're glad you could join us, and we barely just have a quorum, so that's good. I have a few housekeeping items to go over before we begin. Please turn off or silence all your personal communication devices. The applicant and members of the public may speak to any item before the Plan Commission when the relevant item to which you wish to speak is called and public comment is open. Unless an exception is made by the Plan Commission, the following rules will apply. The applicant is given up to 10 minutes to present any information they wish the Plan Commission to consider. Thereafter, members of the public will be given up to 5 minutes to address the specific item before the Plan Commission for consideration. Members of the public may speak only once per called agenda item, unless the Plan Commission member requires clarification or wishes to ask a question. Questions and statements from the audience will not be considered. Only statements from the podium after your stated name and address and within the allowed time constraints are taken into consideration. After all community members have had the opportunity to speak on a called agenda item, the applicant will be asked if they have a final statement for the Plan Commission, and then the Commission may take action on that agenda item. The Common Council has adopted rules of decorum for city boards and commissions, including the adoption of a civility pledge. No person shall personally attack a board member or commission member, city official or staff, or any other person. No person shall make irrelevant, unduly repetitious, offensive, threatening, slanderous, defamatory, or obscene remarks or act in such a way or in such a manner as to disrupt or disturb the orderly conduct of the meeting, including hand clapping, stomping of the feet, whistling, shouting, or other demonstrations. Thank you for all your understanding, and now on to the agenda. Can we get a roll call, please?
Ms. Shireman, Ms. Prop. Here. Councilmember Nichols.
Here.
Ms. Davy. Here. Mr. Lowenstein. Mr. Bowen.
Here.
Vice Chair Kiefer.
Here.
Chairman Perry. 5 board members present.
Okay. Approval of the July 16th, 2024 minutes.
Move to accept as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we can have a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The minutes have passed. And on to item number 1, downtown visualization plan presentation. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many of you may have seen this presentation previously. It's been kind of making its rounds, but we did want to have a chance to come to Plan Commission and show you kind of what's been going on for the last over a year now. So a little bit of background we're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk about this plan. So we start by talking about growth in the city of Oshkosh, and we like to start this presentation by kind of reminding people of the industrial nature of what downtown was. As you can see, a lot of our riverfront is prior industrial area. Specifically, I like to call out that image on the bottom right. A lot of people don't realize that Pioneer Island was not actually an island. It was actually a train facility for cutting ice on Lake Winnebago when it first started. Sometime over the years, the channel was dredged out and became the island that people think of today, but it wasn't always an island. A couple more just images kind of rendering showing what downtown and historic Oshkosh looked like with that truly industrial nature. Then we kind of move on here talking about, okay, what has been going on in the city for a while. The city has a long history of collaboration between the city and then our public-private organizations. Chamber, GoEDC, Discover Oshkosh, BID, Community Foundation have over the years partnered with the city on doing plans for the downtown in various areas of the city. These are all examples of that collaboration that has happened in the past. The Downtown Action Plan, Imagine Oshkosh, Oshkosh Downtown on the Fox, the Sawdust District, our Central Street report dating all the way back to the late 80s. So we have this long collaboration of the city and our private partners about planning for the future. Specifically, some of these plans that have been done in the past are the 2000 Action Plan, which is really a foundation for what we're going to talk about today. Imagine Oshkosh in 2016-2017, Sawdust District Master Plan in 2018 through 2020, and then now we're currently partnering with, like I said, Oshkosh Community Foundation, Oshkosh Chamber of Commerce, Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation, Discover Oshkosh, Downtown BID. all of those groups came together to want to do this plan. This was not a city-driven plan or any one single entity. It was a collaboration where everyone said, hey, the 2000 action plan was highly successful. We should start to look at what's next. How do we start to plan for that next evolution of the future, and what could our downtown look like? Just some important dates in the center city to kind of building on why we're doing this. 1996 was kind of the start of the transformation of downtown with the removal of the railroad tracks. That is really when downtown started to transition out of that industrial nature to what we see today. 2000, that downtown action plan was adopted. 2001, Park Plaza Mall got converted over to City Center, going from that mall to that office complex. Leach Amphitheater in 2004. 2010, the North Main Street reconstruction. 2020, the Sawdust District plan. 2022, some of the large redevelopment opportunities along the river with T-Wall and the hospital location. And then obviously 2024, we're starting this redevelopment visualization plan. We specifically wanted to look at the successes of the 2000 action plan. These are all projects that were specifically called for in that 2000 action plan that came to fruition, which has led us to wanting to do the new plan. We've accomplished a lot of that old plan, and now we want to see what are some opportunities for the future. So that plan called for the Riverwalk, and you think about just the sheer amount of work and improvements that have taken in the Riverwalk. The 100 North Main Block redevelopment, Leach Amphitheaters we talked about. That Mary and Pearl redevelopment area, after almost 25 years, most of it has been redeveloped from old industrial. Jefferson and Parkway, which you're actually going to have a workshop on later tonight, all the way back in 2000 was talked about the need for redevelopment of that site. Opera House Square redevelopment in 2002. And then again, the hospital location was, 25 years ago, that was called for a redevelopment opportunity. Just some catalyst redevelopments from downtown. We're looking at the Mary and Pearl area, the 100 North Main block. What it looked like, in history of Oshkosh versus what it looks like today. Specifically, Opera House Square with what was there with the parking lot in the building versus Opera House Square that exists today. Leach Amphitheater and the utility site that was there versus what's there today with that facility. 100 North Main block, like to talk about what was there versus the building that's there today. This is just a general shot of that Marion and Pearl. Again, it's all industrial versus today. Now a lot of residential development has taken place in those areas. I mean, you can see the coal piles even still there in this photo. And now you've got some of that merged redevelopment with the Max and Corners building that sits right along the river. You've got the Brio building where the food co-op is further up the corridor on Jackson. Obviously, the Geldwin Door facility that was on the south side of the river versus the ThedaCare facility and freighter that's currently under construction. So a lot of redevelopment has taken place since that 2000 plan. The Riverwalk and just the amount of effort that's been made and improvements been made, and we still have a lot to go. The yellow there is still segments of Riverwalk that we hope to construct at some point to further make those connections. A couple of images for you just of what the Riverwalk has turned into. The corridor plan we talked about, this is that Main and North Jefferson that almost 25 years ago called for redevelopment, and that project is presently proceeding forward. And then kind of taking us on to, okay, what are we doing now? So the group came together in collaboration and wanted to look at, okay, how do we take that 2000 plan and what do we show for the future? What's the next set of goals? This is really that. It's a visualization showing, okay, what are some styles and opportunities from redevelopment that could take place downtown? We were looking essentially at the main Jackson area over to where the Leach Amphitheater is, and then north up to about Irving Street. This is the area that was included in the redevelopment plan and that visualization. This is the main image showing, what could a revitalized, reimagined downtown look like. This is not intended to say any one specific of these projects has to go forward in the shape it's shown here. It's really just intended to be a representation of what can redevelopment styles look like downtown. The plan is broken into kind of 3 types of redevelopment that can take place. Those are from like the green sites where it's really landscaping level improvements. It's taking sites that are very hardscaped, concrete heavy, and saying, how can we just do some minimal improvements to sites of that nature to make them a little more inviting downtown? And then it's redevelopment opportunities, like where the corridor is going on Main and Jefferson, or maybe the block just south of City Hall, or some other areas where it's like, okay, there's some redevelopment opportunities that sit within those. And then it's looking at potential catalysts, and are there areas of large-scale impact that could have an effect on town if large-scale redevelopment took place. And again, redevelopment doesn't always mean new. Redevelopment can be revitalizing and invigorating what's there today. A couple of the catalyst sites that really generate a lot of interest that are shown in this plan are, for example, the expansion of Opera House Square. Discover Oshkosh previously had done the Roger Brooks study, and one of the elements that came out of that study was trying to find a way to have more active space opportunity in the downtown and building a plaza in the downtown for programmed active activities to take place. This shows one example of an area that could potentially be looked at for that downtown square. It doesn't mean this has to be the location, but it gives an opportunity to put some visualizations out there of what it could look like. You could have a skating ribbon for in the winter and in the summer. You could have a splash pad. You could have a larger amphitheater. So there's a lot of ways that you can make that public gathering space, active space in the downtown. And this would be looking at, to achieve something of this nature, you'd have to buy up a couple of blocks of existing facilities and turn into something. But it just shows that there is an opportunity, if it's something that the community and the partner is interested in, is you could look at ways to add a plaza into the downtown area. City Center, which is obviously a large development that's in downtown. We talked about, the 2000 action plan, how it went from the mall to the office center. And this plan looked at, being such a prominent building in downtown, what are some options that you could do if redevelopment was going to take place on that site? And the plan kind of breaks into 3 options. Option 1, and it could be one of these, it could be a mixture of these options. Option 1 is finding ways to just revitalize or re-enhance what's there today. Continue to be successful in the building as it is. Could you add condos above it? Could you do facade improvements? What could you do to build off the success that's already there? Option 2 says, is there any opportunity, if there's underutilized portions of the building, could the building be reconfigured to create some new space, keep some of the existing space? That could potentially be an opportunity. And then option 3 at the bottom is what the image shows, is you could look at whole-scale redevelopment of starting over. All of these are on the table, and as we work with the owners of the building and the community partners, we have to look at what's the best opportunity when it comes forward. None of this is immediate stuff. It's really just saying and trying to identify there are opportunities for the future when they arise, and how do we deal with them when they arise. Looking at these are some of the landscape improvements the plan talks about. It's the 600 North Main Street and 300 North Main Street areas. They're both parking lot facilities today that have minimal green space. There'd be an opportunity you could add some landscaping, add some green space to just kind of soften the area, make it a little more inviting as part of downtown. Looking at some other redevelopment opportunities or public spaces, one that takes a look at that small parking lot just north of Gardenias and says, it's only a couple of stalls, it's not highly utilized. Is there an opportunity that you could convert that to a small public gathering space? Maybe some seating or something that could complement the downtown. You think on Saturdays, when it's an active downtown, could you have some seatings or inviting area for people to hang out downtown? And then, talk about the town motel block. I know that's been a block that's been highly discussed for a long time, and, what could redevelopment look like of that entire block? Could it look for more mixed-use office, commercial-style development? So just kind of talking through what's been going on. So we started this back in June with presentations on a lot of the partner organizations, the chamber, the foundation, all of those. We're looking at doing, and this has got pushed back a little bit just because of timing, but there was a stakeholder group that was involved at the start of this that we'd like to take a similar presentation of this and talk to the stakeholders that were part of that early conversation, see what they think of the outcome of the plan that they were involved with early on. And then it's starting to look at, are there short-term and long-term priorities of the city, of our community partners? Are there projects or elements in this plan that they want us to start investigating further? And then starting to look at what are those partnerships. If you think about like Opera House Square, the Leach Amphitheater, that is an example of a really nice public-private partnership. The city got involved in acquiring the land because the seller wanted to get it to the city. The chamber and other elements, the foundation and other elements helped fund building what that facility eventually turned into. So where are some similar opportunities maybe for that, where there can be that public-private partnership to achieve some of the goals that are in this plan? Finally, I don't like to end on, just what could be done. I want to talk about what is happening. So here are 2 projects that are already ongoing, kind of revitalizing our downtown. The first is the alley activation project by the 400 West parking lot. Those beautiful murals were all installed last year. The bid and the business owners in that area are continuing to look at ways to further activate that alley. Great project that's ongoing. And then one that's close to me is Williams Water Gazebo. We've been working on that gazebo being built for years. It is finally under construction. I'll actually have some of the people involved in the project in the audience today that will be helping complete this project later this fall. Finally get that built. You know, we had a donor that really, stepped up and supplied a lot of money to build that. So it's great to finally see that vision come forward in the city, and should be a great asset to the downtown. With that, any questions?
I just have a comment. So this was presented to council a while back now.
Yeah.
And I know that there were a lot of questions that I got after it was presented. And so I've had a little bit of time to digest it. And one of the things, I know, first up, it's awesome. I mean, I think it's a great job to give us guardrails on what we want to think about as a city. But if you think about the last time this was done in 2000, it was 25 years ago. So we had things like 9/11 and the financial crisis and COVID that got in the way of that progress. So that takes a lot of time. And then we have changes in technology like the iPhone and electric cars and AI. So I think what's important to point out is this is looking 25, 30, 50 years in the future. And I like that we have those guardrails. So I appreciate all the hard work, and I know this was a big lift.
Thank you. Any
What
other?
he said.
Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to the actual part of the rest of the meeting.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 2. It's a specific implementation plan amendment for loading dock access at 3300 Medalist Drive. Gen 2 Holdings LLC is the owner, and Richard J. Fisher is the applicant. Have there been any site inspections? Okay. The staff report is accepted as part of the record, and please report your summary.
Thank you. So the subject site is an industrial site at the southeast corner of Medalist Drive and West 33rd Ave. It has industrial buildings as well as storage buildings that are being constructed per a GDP and SIP that was approved back in 2023. So these darker gray buildings are the storage buildings. The northeast building was recently purchased by Lakeside Plastics, and they would like to install a loading dock on the east side of the building. So the applicant is requesting an SIP amendment to allow that loading dock access and the additional pavement to it. They do need a BSM to allow reduced setback to 10 feet, where code requires a 20-foot side yard setback. They're also accessing through a neighboring property, and they have provided cross-access agreements information on that, so they do have permission from the neighboring property to access through there. They are showing additional arborvitae along that reduced setback to kind of buffer from the neighboring property. Staff does not have concerns with that reduced setback, as it is abutting undeveloped neighboring industrial land that's, I believe, stormwater pond. They are also requesting a BSM to allow the reduced lighting levels for that maneuvering area. Staff does not have concerns with that lighting level reduction, as it's only for truck maneuvering to the loading dock. There's no employee or customer parking there, so there's really no safety concerns. Here are the building elevations along that facade. They're just adding 2 overhead doors for the loading dock. Other than that, all the materials are remaining the same and matching what's there. So with that, staff recommends approval of the SIP amendment with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
Okay. Are there any technical questions from the Plan Commission? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open up to public comment and request a statement from the applicant. If the applicant is here, please approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
Good afternoon, my name is Rick Fisher. I'm with Fisher & Associates Architects. I'm the applicant for the project. I also worked on the remainder of the site and worked with the development for the other storage units that were built on the site. And so this is a condominium plaza. There's multiple buildings within this overall site. So this particular building on the northeast side has been sold to Lakeside Plastic, which is across, is the adjacent property owner. So this is an extension of their operation. So as part of that, they wanted to build a new break room space and some other interior alterations, and then add these loading docks. So the truck maneuvering is not at all anywhere near the public roadway, And we had looked at several different versions of the maneuvering space. We wanted to keep the car parking spaces not in the maneuvering space, because trying to maneuver a truck along with the car is difficult. Worked with staff to look at alternative options to make the truck maneuvering work. I worked with my civil engineer. We came up with a better solution than, initially we were going to drive all the way out to the property line. That was the easy way to make the trucks maneuver. So we widened and reshaped and everything. So this was a good solution, working with staff to meet all the needs. As far as lighting, we were planning to just put a couple wall packs on the exterior wall and not light any of the turning spaces, because that's, it'll be lit by the truck itself when it's maneuvering. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Are there other members of the public that would like to make a statement? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the records, please.
I'm Michael Cuddle. I am one of the owners of Lakeside Plastics as well as Gen 2 Holdings. So we do, Gen 2 currently owns the property and the building that Lakeside Plastics is leasing on the north side of 33rd Ave. Lakeside itself has bought the current building that we're asking for the permits for here. Basically just here to answer any of the questions that you may have about what we're doing, why we need this. So if you have any, I'd be glad to answer.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing the public comment period. Would the applicant like to make a closing statement? Okay. Commission, the action is upon you.
Move to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prompt,
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols,
Aye.
Ms. Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Bowen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
Okay, item number 3 is a public hearing. It's a zone change from Central Mixed Use District, CMU, to a Central Mixed Use District with a Plan Development Overlay, CMU PD, and approval of a general development plan and specific implementation plan for a parking lot construction at 224 State Street. Team SNW LLC is the owner, and Mach 4 Engineering and Surveying LLC is the applicant. Has there been any site inspections? Okay, those are noted. The staff report is accepted as part of the record, and please report your summary.
Thank you. So the subject site is located at the southeast corner of State Street and Wagoo Avenue. It has a commercial building, was previously the Oshkosh Northwestern building, as well as a parking lot within the site and 2 garage buildings accessed off of Wagoo Avenue. So here's a view of the site. The applicant is requesting a rezone as they are requesting to reconstruct the existing legal non-conforming parking lot. They're currently in the process of renovating the site at 216 to a restaurant, and then future plans are for a hotel on above that restaurant and then on the neighboring building to the north. So they do need that parking lot for the new users. And as the site currently has a legal non-conforming parking lot, to reconstruct it, they will need BSMs, so they're requesting that rezone to add to plan development overlay. Staff does not have concerns with the PD overlay, as it will allow them to provide needed parking for the site. So here's the site plan they provided. It has 31 parking stalls. They are requesting a BSM for 0-foot setback along the south and east property lines, where code requires a 5-foot setback, and they're providing a 10-foot setback along the front property line, where code requires a 5-foot setback as well. Code also requires a 10-foot buffer yard requirement along these property lines, as it's abutting institutional zoning. However, the applicant is requesting, again, the 0-foot setback. They feel that an increased setback to 10 feet from the right-of-way is more appropriate in this case, as it is abutting county buildings. So it's basically right up against walls of the neighboring buildings, and also that would be difficult for plantings, as it may run into issues with the buildings up to the lot line. So they are requesting, again, the increased landscaping along the front property line. They're also requesting BSM to allow parking row ends without the landscape islands, as that would limit their ability for providing the needed parking stalls and maneuvering. Staff is supportive of these BSM requests, as they are providing the increased landscaping and increased setback along the right-of-way that will enhance the view of the site from the public right-of-way. So with that, staff recommends approval of the rezone, GDP, and SIP with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Okay, Plan Commission, any technical questions?
I have one. Is the parking lot here sealing in something?
Yes, this is a capped DNR environmental site, so we largely need to maintain a cap here. So this was a fine balance, trying to work with the DNR, the applicants, and figuring, okay, it's capped, we need to keep capped. How can we make some improvements and get a little nicer brought up parking lot and get some green space added? So this has been a fine balancing act of finding something that works.
So would that preclude recommending permeable pavers in there anywhere?
I would want to work with the environmental consultants to see if that's a viable option, given that it is a cap site. That is typically not done in cap sites, because
Okay,
you want to
figured.
make
I
sure
just
you
thought
have
I'd
that.
ask.
Is the building to the east, is that right up to the property line?
Yeah, the county building is pretty much up right tight to it.
Yeah, shown here, yeah, it's basically right at that property
And same
line.
thing to the south. That building's pretty much right tight to the line as well.
And then the parking lot that way. And they're keeping the existing garage that is there, and is there another building on the corner there too?
The two existing garages.
Okay, they're keeping both of those? Okay. Any other technical questions? Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing, request a statement from the applicant. The applicant is here. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
Susan Hirschberg with RH Design Build, address 2050 Menominee Drive.
And I'm Kelsey Lally. I am Director of Team S&W, speaking as the owner's representative. I'm also lead design on the project. So we have a 35-room hotel that will be on site in 2026. So here we have 31 stalls. We do have another lot across the street that will provide additional parking. And we are here to answer any questions that you may have. Good.
Thanks. Thank you. Are there other members of the public that would like to make a statement? Okay, seeing none. I'm closing the public hearing. Would the applicant like to make a closing statement? Okay. Commission, the action is upon you.
Move to adopt the findings and recommendation as stated in the staff report.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, let's have a roll call vote.
Ms. Prompt,
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols,
Aye.
Ms. Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Bowen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
Okay, on to item number 4, is a public hearing. Proposed creation of a tax incremental financing district number 44 in the northeast Oshkosh expansion area, designation of boundaries and approval of project plan. The city of Oshkosh is the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a city-initiated TID. We do have Mr. Taves here from Ehlers, who assisted in preparation of the boundary and the project plan to help with any questions that may come up. I'm going to try to give an overview of the TID area, kind of why the city is looking at creating this TID, and what are some potential projects that are within it. So this is approximately 392 acres located on the northwest side of the city, encompassing kind of Stearns Drive on the east and an undeveloped area there. Some partially developed industrial properties to the south, some vacant open space lands that are potential for development on the west side along Lake Butamore Drive, and then some right-of-way along Riff Road. So this is the boundary. I said in total it's about 392 acres. The city is looking at designated as a mixed-use TID. A couple of reasons for that. Mixed-use TIDs are the only TID that do allow newly platted residential to be included within the boundary area. And as some of this area is residential in nature, for future development, that is the only style of TID that would be acceptable. We also do have to make sure that we have 50% of the area within the TID is suitable for mixed-use development. So by that we mean has to be suitable for more than one development style. We have some industrial areas in this, we have some commercial areas in this, and we have some residential areas. So we hit multiple different types of development that could take place within this TID district. Really getting to the why. Why is the city looking to initiate a TID in this area? And the answer is really utilities. There's a couple of utilities out in this area that are impacting potential development within the undeveloped property at this time, as well as there is some utility services that are single point systems right now that the proposed TID would create a loop system so there aren't those single point failure opportunities within the district and property adjoining the district. So for example, these are the improvements right now that are identified in the TID. It is extension of a water main along County Road Y down to Stearns Drive, because right now the city water main ends on Stearns Drive south of County Road Y, and then it picks up again east of the highway on County Road Y. This TID would give us the opportunity to further extend that water main and then hopefully make that connection point, creating a looped water system instead of a single point failure system. It also looks at sanitary relays. There's a very deep sanitary sewer out there that has made it hard for development to take place because there's a large cost of extending that deep sanitary sewer. So the TID would potentially looking at paying for sewer extension to unlock some development potential in that property. As the property on that northeast corner of Stearns is a mixed-use zone parcel, and the owners of the property continue to want to develop it in a mixed-use nature, commercial along Stearns, then maybe some office or multifamily behind it, and then single-family residential behind that. If full redevelopment would take place of that nature, Stearns Drive in that section is still kind of a rural style roadway. So if all of that acreage ended up developing, we may need to improve Stearns Drive to be able to handle that type of development. You've got some industrial park land on kind of the southeast side that has a number of undeveloped parcels that in the future may need some benefit of the TID to be able to develop. Those have been vacant for a long time, so just looking at, okay, in the future, would you need some assistance to create development in those opportunities? The project plan also calls for, there's not a lot of sidewalk out there, so if this area in the future really does start to develop, the TID could help pay for those public infrastructure improvements of sidewalk or pedestrian trail. It's hard to get across the highway at that point, so the TID could be utilized for getting that sidewalk across the highway and, improving pedestrian safety. So those are the public infrastructure improvements that are currently included within the project plan. It does include improvements within a half-mile buffer, which state statute allows, and that is really to get that water main extension so water can service the development area. Just some of the areas that we know, right now are not developing and could develop in the future. Again, I talked about that area on the northeast side where there's potential commercial development along with multifamily and single family. We talked about that industrial area briefly on the south side, and then we know we already have the multifamily project that's going on that southwest side. So that's the boundaries. The project plan, let me get my computer to turn back on here, sorry. Identifies approximately 44 million in potential infrastructure improvements that need to take place in that area to unlock full development potential. We estimate at this time that if full development took place, the overall value within the TID could be about 162 million within those properties. Again, the TID is only within the city. There is no property outside of the city included in the TID, so there's no impact on town parcels. This is a city-initiated project, and TID can only be within property within the city. Being a mixed-use TID, it has a life expectancy of 20 years. That is the statutory maximum for a mixed-use TID. Proposed TID is consistent with the comprehensive plans, and I like to to always talk at Plan Commission. Remember, when this body is looking at TID, it's looking at it from that context of land use, and is it appropriate based on our comp plan and our long-range plans for the area. The TID does include a potential for development incentives for developers in the future. However, none are identified at this time. The project plan does not approve any development incentives, so if somebody wanted to do development incentives in the future, they'd have to go back through council and approve a but-for. This is really designed for the public infrastructure we need. That area is not developing. That area to the north of here is residential growth. So we want to up our public utilities in the area to make sure this area can develop, because we know it's not for a number of reasons. Todd, what did I miss?
Very thorough.
Questions? Ms. Prout?
Yeah, I was surprised about this TIF because it's greenfield. It's not brownfield, and it's not low and moderate income. It doesn't meet what I consider to be the standard criteria, and it's not blight. So how are we able to do this?
So we are not used. So the city has frequently used blight as a style of TID district. In this instance, we're not using blight. We're not telling you this is blighted. We're saying
you're not.
it is a mixed-use TID that is underserved with utilities. That is an acceptable TID in state statute. Mixed use is one of the allowed styles of TID. And we're looking to utilize that style to be able to promote development out here by expanding utilities to make it easier for development to take place. I don't think we have a mixed-use TID in the city. We've done a lot of.
I don't think we do because I'm not familiar.
Yeah, we've done a lot of blight, we've done conservation and rehab, we've done industrial. This would be our first mixed-use tax increment district.
Okay, and it's not being done specifically for the purpose of the new development on Lake Butamore?
Nope, right now there are no development incentives in this project plan. The project plan identifies that if additional increment is available after public infrastructure and a developer can prove a but-for, they could come to council and ask for it. But as proposed by the city, this TID is designed for public infrastructure.
Okay, so it's not, because it's not established yet, the new 522 units will not be increment?
That will generate increment in the district to help pay for the improvements.
They will be in, okay, all right, thank you.
I just have a couple questions. So I think you answered this already, but I just want to confirm. What we're voting on is whether or not this is consistent with the plan, not whether or not it's a good idea.
Correct.
And so, because that'll go before council, and then that's council's determination.
Correct. So just kind of quick TID background. It takes 3 entities to approve a TID, and all have to approve it before it can move forward. No single entity can approve it, but it takes all 3 yes to be approved. It is Plan Commission looking at the land use side of it. It's council looking at what is under their purview, and then it's the joint review board, which is making up the taxing jurisdictions and determining between the city, the school district, the county, and the tech schools, if they believe it's in the best interest of those organizations to allow the TID to be created. All 3 must approve before a TID can move forward.
That's helpful. And then the second question I have, and Ms. Pratt brought this up, but the development that's already scheduled to be in that area, are there elements of the infrastructure that's proposed under this TID that are necessary for them to actually build that project?
If you're talking about Lake Butamore specifically,
Yeah.
I don't believe so. What was identified in this plan is the County Road Y water main loop, the sanitary on Stearns Drive, and then pedestrian potential improvements.
So if there, I guess asked another way, if there are infrastructure elements that are necessary for the construction of that project, and they would like to benefit from this TID, they would have to come back to request their portion of the $18.6 million?
So if they wanted to seek development incentives, yes, they would have to come to council, prove a but-for to council, and council would have to make that decision separately.
Okay. I think that probably you're going to get a lot more questions on that line of questioning, but I don't think we have to do that today. And then the last thing I have, and there's a number of people here, what is the practical effect for this for property owners within this district today?
Yep, so if you live within the district, essentially whatever your tax rate is today gets frozen and remains the same. If new increment, so
As far as the increment goes.
So if you own,
Your tax bill isn't the same. Yeah, clarify.
I gotta find the right mouse. So if you own this property, you know, Mr. Castle's back there, so I'm picking on him. and let's just say it has a base value today of $100. That $100 continues to be collected in tax increment and distributed between the 4 taxing jurisdictions. This is then sold, or Mr. Castle develops it in the future, and a building is put on, and it goes from $100 in value to $200 in value. That first 100 stays as it is, gets separated out to the taxing jurisdictions. That additional increment, that $100, is captured within the TID district and is used to pay for these improvements. Tax rate doesn't go up, tax rate remains the same. It's just if anything that is created in new value after the creation of the district gets captured by the district to pay for these improvements within the district.
Got it. But the practical effect on the actual homeowner is that the addition of the infrastructure is going to improve the value of their properties. Is that right?
Potentially it can.
Okay. Which would cause their property taxes to increase. I just want to make sure that we're being transparent there.
Only if development took place on their property.
Got it. Okay.
So I know I'm going to look at Todd too to help here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is the infrastructure is a prerequisite to allow the development to happen.
Sure.
So,
But
but
in
obviously
and
we'll
of
go
itself-
from farmland or ag use, to a higher and better use, and so the value will be higher.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions?
Any other technical questions? Mr. Bowen?
I just had a couple of questions on, and this may be just the way that you were phrasing it, just so I know what I was hearing. Some of these improvements, the specifically identified project improvements, so the 5-foot sidewalk on the Wyowash Trail to the bridge, the sidewalk on Riff Road, pedestrian trail, were these items, obviously like the heavy items here are sanitary relay, loop to water line, those are the meat and potatoes of what you guys are trying to fund via this funding vehicle are those items. Some of the smaller ticket items that are a little bit more, maybe call it sort of property specific or small area specific, are those items that are, this list of 1 through 10, obviously, take out development incentives, long-term debt financing costs, so 1 through 7.
Yep.
Are these all sort of envisioned by the city to occur along this time frame of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 between 2026 and 2030? Or did you say when you were presenting this that as development occurred in this area, that some of those items would then become more relevant and more, so for instance, you get a residential subdivision, you're gonna definitely lean into that pedestrian walkway between the bridge and the neighborhood or whatever it is.
So in the project plan, we have to slate them in. It does not mean they have to take place in exactly that order or in that phasing.
What about at all? I guess
or
my
even,
question
correct,
is,
even at all. For
Yeah.
example, let's say Stearns Drive.
Yep.
The way that property develops in the future is low traffic volume, and maybe redoing the road is no longer necessary.
Right.
That is, some of these things, although we identify them in the TID, are kind of predicated on how does the development take place in that area. And if things change, we could amend a project plan if necessary, or there's potential something could just not be done if it, at the end of the day, determines they weren't necessary. Is that accurate, Todd?
Correct.
So that's, I think, from a land use standpoint, obviously, which is what our charge is here. Some of those things may happen, they may not happen, but obviously, depending on how they jive with our comprehensive plan, I guess that's where I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, they're in here looking at it from a context of if this area is going to develop to its fullest potential.
Yeah.
These are additional improvements that would need to be made to unlock that full potential of the development.
Okay. Thank you.
So like in the Oshkosh Avenue TID, for instance, some improvements were made immediately.
Yep.
Other things we're waiting until the increment is enough that we can afford it. The Sawyer Street intersection and so forth in Oshkosh Ave. This sounds like there's some things that will need to be done in order to make opportunities available. Is that Is that gonna be borrowed for? Is that, how does that actually work in those
Correct.
cases?
We would be looking to, the TID would be looking to borrow for some of those very first level improvements, sanitary extension, water main, which is why you see in the project plan financing costs being paid back, because it would have to be borrowed for kind of that first phase of improvements.
And then what type of industrial, you mentioned industrial areas, what kind of, is it light industrial?
So
or-
this is actually, I keep using the wrong mouse, business park zoned. I think it's, or is it urban industrial? I take that back. It's urban industrial zoned. This is the Omni Business Park, Omni Industrial Park, that you've got a couple of buildings, but there is also some vacant parcels that could develop in the future.
Okay. Any other technical questions? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to just backtrack 1 second and say that the staff report was accepted as part of the record. Mark was very anxious to get into his report, so he jumped right ahead of me there. And we will have a public hearing, so I am going to open this up to the public hearing. We don't need to hear from the applicant because the city was the applicant. So are there members of the public that would like to make a statement? And if so, approach the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Josh Carter, 2625 Riff Road. So I was just hoping for a clarification. So if this is implemented as a property owner, say we have a private well or whatever, this would require us to integrate into the city's utility?
No. The project plan just provides for extension of the utility. A tenant does not require you to connect to it. If at some point in the future your well would fail, and I'll look to Justin in the back, and you are in the city, if you're in the county, that this does not apply to you, because I'm not sure if you're in the city or in the county. But if
We're
you're
in the city.
If you're in the city, even today, if your well fails and water is available, Justin's coming up to better clarify for me, you would have to connect. But the TID in and of itself does not make that determination.
Okay.
The TID would pay for it to be put in front and make it easier on you potentially if you have to connect in the future.
Sure. And then to echo Councilman Nichols, would this be raising our property taxes? Or?
No, a TID does not change the tax levy or the taxes paid. All the TID does is captures additional increment if it's created in the future. It has no direct impact on tax levy.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just slightly clarify that. So specifically water, Oshkosh residents are not required to hook up. Sanitary sewer, if it's available in front of your house, you are. So you're allowed to use your well as long as it's available. You have to run the service into the water service into your basement, and then your well would get metered for sewer charges. So sewer is required to be hooked up within 1 year of service being available. Water, you don't have to as long as you have a permitted well on site.
And the TIF does not install any new sewer along Riff Road. The only new sewer is over by Stearns Drive.
Emily Pollock, I'm at 38, 18, 55, and 65 Glenview. I own the chunk of land with your green sanitary line through it. So I'd like some clarification as to what that means.
So I'll say this, although it's a green line on here, it doesn't mean that's exactly where that would go. And Justin
Correct,
can
but
clarify again.
we own 62 acres
Yeah.
there, so the chances of it cutting through our property
Right now,
would be quite high, correct?
right now, and Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, it ends right roughly here, correct? So if that is going to be extended, and it is going to go 3 years, that is going to have to be conversations. You would have to agree to it. If not, we would have to find another opportunity.
Okay, so
TID in
we-
and of itself doesn't just allow it through your property.
Okay, so we as property owners would have the right to say we don't want you there.
Correct.
Just in case.
Yep,
Okay.
still your property, and those rights are held with
Okay.
you.
That was kind of a concern because we mow 15 hours worth of grass every week, and I was like, oh, what are they
Yeah.
going to do to my yard? Okay. All
No,
right.
that
We know.
is a conversation, and if you disagree with it, it'll have to find a new home.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Right, Justin? Anything? Yep.
Anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Okay.
Just a minute, they were to speak.
Thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm Jim Erman, I chair the town of Oshkosh, and I'm fielding a lot of calls. People are confused on this issue here. The TID district is the blue up there on your map.
Yep.
And what's the, according to what I read here, you're changing the comprehensive plan here to mixed use for that area?
No comp plan change. The TID style, based on statute, is mixed use, meaning there's more than one development style that can take place within the district. No changes to the comprehensive plan.
This is city's comp plan that for 2040?
Yep.
And that, we worked for a couple of years on that. It was a committee or whatever, sat in on that for a couple of years. And a lot of this area here is residential here in the...
Yep, and that area is not in the TID district. TID type and comp plan type are not the same, and the TID does not cover any area in there that's outside the city. The TID is only within the city areas.
Okay, so you're not changing the comp plan for in unincorporated area, even though it's in that half-mile buffer?
Half-mile buffer is just the area which improvements like the water main extension can take place to serve the TID. There is no comp plan or zone changes.
So if it, right now, and this was an agreement with, this is the city of Oshkosh's comp plan, the town worked with us and took a lot, we worked hard on this.
Yep, I was there.
You took the town's plan into it a lot. So this, in the future, then this comp plan for the areas in the town of Oshkosh are not gonna change from types of residential to industrial, commercial?
Nope. Nope. Okay. Comp plan will still do its normal thing. This is separate from that, and if someone wants to change any areas in the town, it'd have to go through that normal comp plan process and discussion.
You gotta change the comp plan before you change the zoning.
Correct, yep, and this doesn't affect zoning. This is, a TID style is separate from comp plan and
You're
zoning.
just saying that right now, it recognizes there are residential and some commercial and industrial there, so that's how you're getting this TID.
Yep, that's the mixed use style, because there's land presently in the city.
Not changing the land use at this time. The other thing here is, I say, well, this makes it so, like the 500 apartments there now, oh, they're gonna help pay for this, because when that development comes in, those taxes won't go to the general taxes, the improvements there. What is it gonna be? You said potential, what, $100 million here for the 500 and some apartments that are going up?
So conservatively, the estimate is 162 million for the entire district.
Okay,
could
right
be.
Now, those apartments that are going up right now, as that improvement comes in, that money will be going to help pay off the TID because it's within the boundary?
Correct.
Which is all great, so that'll get paid off. But the tax is hidden in the concept. That money from the taxes that are on that new development there are not going into the general fund for your schools and everything else. So the rest of the people in the whole big community in the Oshkosh School District have to pick up, they're picking up that share because it's their share for this new development is going into paying for this improved infrastructure.
Yep, that's why the JRB exists, where the school district weighs in, the county weighs in, the tech school weighs in. They all have to agree that they're willing to give up those taxes. That's the point of the joint.
They're getting it from somebody, in that they're just not. They're still going to get their money, but it's just that the rest of the people have to pay a little more to subsidize this infrastructure improvement.
Yeah, that's a decision those taxing jurisdictions have to weigh in during the JRB.
Sure, but I think there was concerns on that buffer area there that it affects the land use or whatever in the buffer area, which is quite a bit larger than that.
Yeah, it does not.
That's the answer. The phone calls I got to return tomorrow. So.
Yeah, it does not. Has no impact on land use, comp plan, zoning in those areas.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing. I don't know if the city is the applicant. Do you need to make a closing statement or?
Not unless there's any additional questions.
Okay. Commission, then the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Are there any discussions on the motion? Mr. Nichols?
I just have one question. I think that arose because of one of the comments. So we know that this is the first stage of the process for a TID, and certainly public comments were available. We heard from them.
Yep.
We know at council, public comments will be available too. And so if people do have concerns about whether or not this should exist from under the purview of council, they can come there. And then the JRB, though, just to address the gentleman's concerns and comments, is that a public setting where people could actually speak up, or is that something where they should contact?
It is,
Okay.
and it is, bear with me, September 5th at 8 a.m. And I would say if people have concerns, in relation to the school district, the county, take your concerns to those entities so they have that information before they vote.
And that's where I was going to go with it. So we all have county representatives that we know about, we can access, and so they get emails too. And then of course we have an elected school board where we can always contact them and say, I do support this or I don't support this. So I just wanted to mention that too. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, let's have a roll call vote.
Ms. Cron?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thanks, Todd. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the planning manager's report.
Yeah, just a quick note for Plan Commission. Mr. Ulrich did resign from Plan Commission and other boards he was on as the city. Just some conflicts that he had with other situations in his life, so he did step down. That does take us down to 8 members. Plan Commission is a 9-member board with 2 alternates, so we right now have 2 alternate seats and 1 full member available. As you see, that's kind of why we're having the last couple of meetings. Some of our quorum concerns, we only have 5 again this week. So if you know of anyone interested in serving on Plan Commission that lives in the city, I would encourage you to talk to them and see if they're interested in putting an application into the mayor, because it would be nice to get back up to 11 just to make sure we have sufficient representation and we don't run into any issues of having to cancel a meeting for lack of a quorum. That was it.
We meet twice a month at 4 o'clock on first and third Tuesdays of the month. No experience is required. You will be indoctrinated and taught as you go along, as I think I will.
Yes.
So please, if you know anybody that would be interested, just ask that you can make all the meetings, so thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. We can also have a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.